French. And I'm here with Dexter and Tim. We're part of a startup called Calibre. And in addition to that, I'm also an instructor at UP Benildean, sponsored by Google. So what brought, oops, I think I lost the screen, or the laptop just went in sleep mode. Is there any way we could make sure it doesn't go in sleep mode? Thank you. And so the reason that I was brought to the Philippines last year is because I was trying to start another company. It's called Smart Clubs, and it didn't go as planned, so we didn't start it. But I was here thanks to Google, and I was teaching undergraduate students about how to build companies, despite the fact that my own company was failing. That's okay. It's okay. Never give up. It's like a sport, right? You don't win all the games. Towards the end of the summer, I ended up meeting a bunch of friends, and then they already had something going on. I decided to join them as a founder and so on. And we'll tell you more about this in a little bit. But I think that I have only 50 minutes. I'm not sure. Where is TJ? Do I have 50 minutes, or do I have an hour and 15? I'm not sure. Until 3:30. Okay, so 1 hour and 50 minutes. So what we wanted to talk to you about today, and you'll see that the time here is not quite accurate, is going to be a brief history of a startup. So we're going to take 10 minutes to tell you about one startup, and then I'm going to give you an introduction to this concept of a business model. I'm sure you've probably heard the term, but I want to put it in a certain framework that's useful for thinking about it. And I also want to motivate the use of business models. And then we're going to talk about the cost structure and revenue streams. And we might need to just cut it short. So we're not going to cover customer segments and value prop, or if we do cover them, it's going to be fairly quickly. So let's start with a brief history of a startup for roughly 10 minutes. And for that, whoa, 1 second. Okay, and for that, I'm just, click again and then it switches, okay. So for that, I'm just gonna hand it off over to Dexter, who is the president and COO of Calibre, and he will walk you through a few minutes about Calibre.
Hello, everyone. Hi. For the house, can we turn up the house lights? Para makita kung natutulog sila. Oh, I'm Filipino, by the way, to everyone's amazement. Calibre. So the person who's not represented here today is our Chief Executive Officer, Paul Rivera. Paul and I were students at Berkeley to school in the United States, and the way that we met each other is that we joined an organization that helped Filipino Filipino high school students get into college in the United States. So I think from the very beginning of our relationships, we always wanted to help the community. Fast forward, after school, Paul joined Google. I don't know if you know that. Then he actually started his own call center here in Manila. Are you guys familiar with the BPO industry, the call center industry? It's growing 16% per year. It's growing so fast that it's hard to find people to get jobs, which is ironic because we often think that in order to get a job, Filipinos have to leave the country. But those jobs are coming here. So Paul had this big problem because he had his own call center. In his call center, serviced companies like, have you heard of TripAdvisor? Friendster, for those of you who were a part of the early adopters of social media. So his company was trying to find more call center representatives, more customer support, but he couldn't. And I think that's the problem that he wanted to solve. He wanted to find qualified people faster because they either were not qualified even though they went to a college, or it just took too much effort to find out who was qualified and who wasn't. So my background, I was born and raised in the United States. I learned to speak Tagalog from telenovelas that my mom used to watch. We actually spoke Tagalog at home. But my background after college is that I entered into government. I entered into this field called workforce development. And what we used to do is we used to create systems that prepare populations for growing industries. So 2 years ago, I had a government post. I resigned from that, came to the Philippines, and I went to go visit my old college buddy, Paul. And he said that he has this problem and he wants to solve it. He wants to start a company that solves this skills problem and this recruiting problem in the BPO industry. I'm like, wow, that's what I do. So we actually started to collaborate, and we started to bring about the initial foundations and the concept of Caliber. So how many of you are looking to be entrepreneurs? Do you want to start your own business? See, the first rule about entrepreneurship is you can't be shy about it. Either you do or you don't. So how many of you want to start your own business? Yeah, good. Who's putting? You're not allowed to put her hand up. It's called cheating. How many of you are have a background in engineering or development? Oh, okay, over here. So you need to get to know those people. How many of you are studying business? Very good. Through the course of this program, what we wanted to talk about is our experience of starting a company here in the Philippines. There's one thing that I wanted to start off this talk with, and it kind of jumps off Eileen's point. The Philippines is growing. Paul and I were raised in the United States. Danny was raised in Canada, which is the northernmost state of the United States. And Tim, he's from Provinciano siya. He's from Eureka. There's like 10 people there. So when he left, the town became not interested anymore. But we were passionate about the Philippines. There's growth here. There's opportunity here. The problems that we thought that the Philippines had, the Philippines that our parents left essentially to immigrate to the United States, it's a different situation now. And Danny's sleeping on the floor, and Tim's sleeping on the couch, because we all wanted to move here to the Philippines to be able to get Caliber off the ground, because we believe that the Philippines is growing, that we can make an impact here. So let me hand it off from here, and we'll talk a little bit more about what Caliber is and what it does, and hopefully we can share something about our own experience that can help you start yours.
Yeah! All right. Thank you, Dexter. So I've already given you guys a few things, or I've already mentioned a few things about myself. So last year when I met Paul and Dexter, I saw the incredible passion that these two guys had. So I decided I was actually still an MIT student, an MBA student, even though my background is computer engineering. But at that time I was an MBA student, and I said, this is too big to just let pass. I'm going to join them, and I'm going to go back to school, but I am going to work basically on every single one of my school projects on Caliber. And one of my biggest contributions was to help them raise money. So we raised a good amount of money in the US, just a little bit less than $1 million US. And we joined this very prestigious incubator called Y Combinator, which is based in Mountain View, California. So following the capital raising crazy fall semester that I had, I came back to the Philippines just for 1 month. Now we were equipped with money, we were into Y Combinator, and I reached out to all the best students that I had interacted with and recruited basically most of them. Actually, we grew the team from 3 engineers to 13 engineers in about a week and a half. Some of the best programmers that I had met the previous summer. Hi, Earl. Earl's in the back. He's the next speaker, so 3:30. And we basically got all of this team together, based them. A number of us relocated to California, called up Tim, then, hey Tim, we are in the Y Combinator. Why don't you come and join us? And I'll give Tim a few minutes to introduce himself, but also to talk about the product that Caliber is building and so on, which will be a nice segue for business models.
So yeah, I met Danny. We were both taking a class on semantic web technology at MIT together, and we won the best project 2 out of. Is that? I don't know. And then he gave me a call early January this year, saying, would I be interested in coming down to Y Combinator? And I live in a small town of about slightly more than 10. I think it's 30,000 people, with about largest town within 3 hours. So he said, "You want to come move down to Palo Alto, join us for a Combinator, and just see what that whole experience is like." And I think when I was at MIT, I was studying something called computational cognitive science, with an emphasis on modeling knowledge in the human mind. Right? And that's kind of what Caliber is looking to do. But right now we have this thing, you have a resume, right? And it's one of the primary ways that people find and recruit talent. And there's things on the resume like work experience, educational experience. They're really just rough approximations of what we actually want to know, which is, can you do specific job-related tasks or not, right? And so that's the Caliber mindset is we form simulations and tasks and assessments that measure your ability to perform specific actions and measure how that correlates to your ability to perform job-related tasks. For a lot of the people entering the BPO industry, they don't have a resume. They don't have necessarily a high school diploma or a college diploma, or maybe they dropped out for a myriad of reasons. And those people can do the job or can do it with just a little bit of training to fill in the gaps. I think one of the frustrations Paul had when he was recruiting people and having to turn down 90% of the people who applied was that they were being turned down for meeting things, technical restrictions. If the account requires you to type 35 words a minute and you can't, you can only type 25, you're not eligible. But that difference in skill can be trained and improved in a reasonably short amount of time. And that's one of the functions of the Caliber platform, is to identify the specific weaknesses that keep you from being employed and train you up in those. I think that's just the tech platform.
All right, thank you, Tim. So we didn't want to just jump into theory right away, but that was it about Caliber. So we gave you a brief history of a startup, and now I'm going to try to motivate, for all of you guys, the reason why you should do a startup in the first place. Yeah. So I don't know where to start, but I will start with optimizing for learning. So whatever you do in life, I think you should always try to optimize for learning, because everything that you do, whether it's in a job or whether it's in a sport or whether it's in school, the learning is what stays with you in the long term, right? Everything else kind of goes away. Does that make sense? You guys agree? And optimizing for learning also means doing things that you've never done before. So if you really like something, like, doesn't matter what it is, it could be sitting down in front of a couch, or it could be playing soccer, or it could be starting a company, right? If you can make that one thing that you like be something that you learn, in the long term it pays off tremendously. And doing a startup is one of those things that is extremely hard and where you will learn a tremendous amount. You will learn a tremendous amount of skills that you don't even know that you don't have. So for instance, you might be extremely talented as a programmer, but you would not know the importance of selling. You might not know the value of being able to just pitch your idea in 30 seconds to an investor. Vice versa, you might not know the importance of recruiting. As the CTO of Caliber, I think my coding skills are far, far, far less important than my ability to recruit talented people, and so on. The list goes on and on and on. So when you do start something that is extremely hard, like building a company, you discover those skills that you probably don't have. And then the last one is, because you might have a chance to start a startup, there's nothing more exhilarating, I think, and exciting to sit back as a founder of a company and just think, wow, I could like go to bed right now for 2 days, and in 2 days I come back and the startup has moved on, it has continued without even me, right? I just sort of gave it some momentum, and then I step away and it just runs, and it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. That doesn't mean that it's going to run for a long time. It might crash and burn in 2 weeks or 2 months. Hopefully not. But it's very, very exhilarating. So that to me is the reason why you should start a company. Anything you guys want to add on this, or next third Tim? Okay, I'll just keep moving. Now, starting a company is a crazy venture. and it's one that you probably might think maybe every night that you regret or have lack of confidence and so on, because you're going to spend a lot of energy and you're not going to get rewarded for it, right? It's very unforgiving. You might work, for a whole weekend on an assignment, and you're like, that was a really hard assignment, and you end up, getting something for it. You get a diploma. While in startup world, you might work for 6 months and get really not much out of it. No one is going to give you a diploma. There's no progression. There's nothing. If it didn't work out, it didn't work out, right? So the only thing that's left with you is your learning. So let's try to be a little smart about it, right? Let's try to find ways to ensure that whatever experiment you're trying to run, whatever startup you're trying to do, has a chance of succeeding. And one way that you can do this is by building a business model. So just to break the rhythm a little bit, because by now my voice is probably just monotonous, and you're like your phone, or you're speaking to your neighbor or something. I'm gonna ask questions to the audience, and I'm actually gonna run to the audience, and I'm gonna interview somebody about what a business model is, and I'm gonna pick anyone who is not paying attention right now. So who is not paying attention? Careful, I have good eyes, 20/20 vision. So I will go deep. I will go very deep, and I will embarrass somebody. Oh my God. Was anyone around here not paying attention? Raise your hand if you weren't paying attention.
Relationships with, such that they can introduce us to companies that can use Caliber to find, screen, and train their new workers. Okay? So what are our key activities? What do we do to be able to achieve this? Actually, let me talk about the value proposition, which is at the heart. So Caliber provides a pool of pre-qualified candidates. Okay? So companies can use Caliber, apply an assessment that they approve, and see who qualifies and who doesn't. So the way that it is right now in the BPO industry, how many of you guys have applied for a job at a call center? Don't be shy. I did. Tim did. Okay. The process is that usually you'll submit your resume on JobStreet. You'll get a phone call. You'll have to go to a recruiting office and spend 10 hours taking tests, talking to interviewers. Then maybe at the end of the day, after 12 hours of interviews and test taking, you'll get a job offer. So on the job seeker side, it's a long, arduous process. Now, if that's what it looks like on the job seeker side, on the recruiter side, they have to gather 100 resumes, interview 15 of them, such that they can hire one. One of the clients that we're working with right now, they're one of the largest in the Philippines. They have to hire 3,100 each month. So how many people do they have to screen? That 3,100 times 100. Okay? And how are they doing this today? JobStreet and pen and paper tests. So if you can imagine, they kind of they're depressed all the time. That's why they're drinking and smoking, and if they would have a therapist if they had that in the Philippines. So they need a solution that can help them reach more people, screen them faster, such that they can know who's qualified faster. Okay? So on the job seeker side, we make the process simple for them. On the company side, we make the process simple for them as well, cheaper and more efficient. So how do we get there? Okay? We get there by putting our assessment, our platform, online. And how do we do that? We need to build a team of engineers who are creating the platform, the engineering, the assessments, so this is the learning, and then the tests, and the job calibration. And in order for us to do, so that's this quadrant here, the key activities. What resources do we need in addition to funding? We need to know what are the skills the industry needs, such that we can screen people in and out. We also need a reputation and a brand, because companies have to trust Caliber, that we know what a qualified candidate looks like, how a qualified candidate speaks, and what skills a qualified candidate has. So we really have to have a definition of trust. I mean, if you look at Danny, I trust Danny. If you look at Tim, you look at Danny, I trust Danny. You look at Tim. So we put Danny for now, So we put that very nice. So we have to have that trust. So that's how we have to have that trust. Our value proposition. How we get to our value proposition. Activities, engineering, creating assessment. Yeah, activities, resources, industry knowledge, and brand. Resources, industry knowledge. Now on the customer side, we have. We have to make sure that the product runs. We have to make sure that the product runs fast. You know the trouble that we had here. You know the trouble that we had video stalling and the Google Hangout installing with Google Hangout. Well, that's not Google's fault probably. I think they have pretty good internet on their end. On our end, we have serious infrastructure problems, which means that we had to engineer our website to run in an environment where the internet's patchy, which is really difficult to do. It has to run super fast on a very low bandwidth. So our product, our website, our assessments, you can actually take it on your smartphone, like you, with your. Are you playing Minion Rush or? So if you went to calibre.com, you can actually take our assessment and do it right on your smartphone because it runs. It doesn't need a lot of bandwidth to do it for most of the questions. Channels. Okay. What are channels? Channels. Channels are ways in which you reach your consumer. Okay? For us, because the people who are paying us are the companies, we're building our personal network of companies. Okay? As Danny mentioned earlier, you have to think about how do you reach your customers. What a channel is mechanisms, areas, spaces where your customers exist. And since we're a startup, and for many of you, if you're running a business that's selling to other businesses, this is going to be your channel as well. What is that? It's your personal network. How many friends that you have that can introduce you to companies who can pay for you? On the consumer side, if you're selling to individuals, your channels will be things like the iTunes Store, a website, Amazon. Google has a set of e-commerce websites, so on and so forth. So you have to think about your channel. Okay? And this is what I was talking about earlier, customer segments. How many of you know what a beachhead is? A beachhead market, not Boracay or Palawan, beachhead market. Take a guess. What is a beachhead market? Anyone just shout it out. Right? Yes. What do you do on a beachhead if you're in a boat? You land, right? So this is your first market. So what I was mentioning earlier, the BPO industry, the call center industry is growing the fastest. It's growing faster here than it is anywhere else in the world. Do you know who the main competitor is for the call center industry in terms of the Philippines versus another country? Take a guess. India. Oh my gosh, you guys are listening. Okay. But apparently, Filipinos are much more malambing. They're much nicer. Essentially, when call centers are located here in the Philippines, the customer satisfaction goes up because we're nice people, right? India, they have a very different linguistic pattern and different kind of cultural legacy. So our beachhead market is the Philippines. It's growing 15% per year. There are 500,000 jobs open each year in the BPO industry. That's a lot of people, and that's a lot of jobs. So for us to launch, we launched here. So now let's think about how we make money. We make money when people apply for a job, essentially fill out an application at a company, and we also get paid when they take our assessment. And our assessments are fun. You know, they answer multiple choice, typing tests. We actually have a speaking test. Do you guys, so the way that the speaking test works is one of them is we show you a map, and you have to give directions from point A to point B. And it's recorded. And one of our early supporters, do you guys know who Ramon Bautista is? I didn't. He's actually a smart endorser. And Earl looks over. So it's smart. And so he's like, you know what? Let's, I think I can pass your speaking test. So we have Ramon Bautista giving directions in London from Trafalgar Square to Buckingham Palace. And he's like, wait, that's a one-way. Don't make a left. There's MMDA there. But if there is, be ready with your 200 pesos. So that's essentially our product, which is based online. Okay? So that's how we get paid. We get paid when people apply. We get paid when they take our assessment. So for a software company, what do you think our costs are? Number one, food. What do you think we spend most of our expenses on? Research. Okay, that's there's a sub-extension of research. What do you think it is? What kind of research? Okay, it's developers. Okay, our number one cost right now, our biggest team. It's not a cost; it's an asset. But our biggest, what we spend most amount of money on, are engineers, and not only any engineers. Because Danny was teaching at one of the colleges here in the Philippines, some would argue it's the best. Some of you would argue it's not. He was able to recruit the top engineers. Manila had a competition recently for the top developers, and our spots 1, 2, and 4 were all of our engineers. Number 1 was only 19 years old. What's that? Tim, he's a globally well-known hand model. No, but he's Tim actually doesn't compete here in the local market because he's shy. So definitely it's engineers, it's product development. Tim's actually our product manager. And it's cloud software services. Okay? What I mean by that, the entire ecosystem for creating businesses online has changed. And how it has evolved, it's evolved to make it easy for people like you to put a product online. Okay? So Amazon Web Services, we also create our assessments and our development. So that's essentially our cost structure. This is how we make money. We get paid when people apply, when people take our assessments. What we pay is really development, people's time. We're not manufacturing. We don't make physical widgets. We make digital ones. So with that, I'll turn it back to Danny.
Right. Thanks, Dexter. So guys, I think this is basically a well fleshed out example of a business model that appears to work and that is well enough expressed and has enough potential that investors wanted to invest in this, right? But I sort of put it backwards, right? I didn't really tell you what's in the boxes, and then Dexter came and gave you an answer for what they are. But now we're going to talk more specifically with the 25 minutes that we have left, roughly. A little more. I think we might have more than 30 minutes left. About 2 of the boxes. And those 2 boxes are not necessarily the most important ones, but they're ones that you can certainly grasp in the context of a presentation fairly well. And so since this is an academic institution, I have a few formulas for you, but the formula is very, very simple, and it's extremely valuable to think about when you consider that new fruit store that you're about to start. And that is the number of users times the average revenue per user. So it's something very, very simple, but it's something that you can test and that you can, think and validate as part of your establishing what the revenue will be for your company. So your number of users is something that you can do on the back of a napkin, and your average revenue per user is something that you can test by seeing, well, how am I going to earn that revenue? Is it going to be through advertising? Is it going to be through charging my customers? Is it going to be through an indirect way of earning revenue with my customers? So that is more or less revenue potential. And as you ask yourself those questions, you want to pay attention to whether those values that you're giving make sense. Sorry, I switched too early. So number of users. Maybe we can take an example. But in Caliber's case, who were the users? Maybe I could ask Tim. Who are the users of Caliber?
Well, I think the users you're probably referring to are potential candidates.
Louder.
So the users in our case would be potential candidates, people who come looking for work and to be assessed. We have 2 types.
How many of those are there in the Philippines? Or in the world?
Well, since it's a primarily online assessment, 35 million online people.
How much? Sorry?
35 million, I think, was the previous.
35 million. But do you think all 35 million? When I put my revenue potential here, do you think I would put 35 million people?
No, that would be optimistic.
Okay, so say more. So I'm just trying to, putting you on the spot a little bit, but I'm trying to get to a point where we can come to an agreement on the number of users and the average revenue per user.
All right, so we're looking particularly at people looking for work in the call center industry. That's a certain educational range. It's a certain, obviously these are people who are interested in a certain cost, salary range.
Okay, so basically we can see that even I think we have feedback. Can you put yours on mute? Okay, so basically we can see that even the definition of users might not always be clear. In this case, I might have preferred to use instead of number of users, it's number of customers. So I might have said, oh, this is like converges. So there's like 6 of them in the Philippines that are big enough, and each of them are, $1 million per year, or $10 million per year, $1 million per month. And Tim might take it, oh no, actually users for me is, it's a platform, so on the other side is the trainers. And so instead it's, 10 million people and it's $1 per person. So there are several ways that you can do this, but as long as it makes sense, it gives you a good approximation. So cost, I think Dexter already mentioned briefly about cost before, but let me take a break again, because you guys are talking too much. So I'm going in the audience and I'm going to ask about cost. Whoever is talking. Oh, I found one. Hey guys. How are you? Okay. What's your name?
Jared.
Jarian?
Jared.
Jared. J-A-R-E-D. What's your name?
Ryan, sir.
Ryan. Okay. So tell us, guys. Can you define for me, and it's actually on the screen, but can you define to me the broad categories of costs that exist?
Okay.
When you start a company, what are the costs? What are you going to pay?
Sir, the license fees.
License fees for the government, because your government charges very high license fees.
Yes, sir.
What percentage of your cost is going to be paid in license fees?
10%, sir.
10%, always.
Not always, sir.
Okay, not always.
Yeah.
But license fees is not typically the first thing I think about when I start a company as a very big category of cost. Can you give me another category of cost?
We go naman.
Either Jairan or Ryan. These are our cost experts.
By the way, they're up here.
Up there, I can't read it.
So we need someone with a better vision. Maybe 17 out of 20, 18 out of 20. Or we need someone with a good idea. Volunteers. Oh, I found one. I found this one. She was turned around. What's your name?
Gab.
Gab. So Gab, what are the categories of cost? Don't read.
Engineering, marketing, I forgot the last one.
Oh, she's a psychic. And which ones do you think are the biggest ones?
Marketing.
Marketing. What kind of a startup are you thinking of when you say marketing? Is it retail, fashion, or is it a purely software company? Okay, I am going to stop digging in this area. Okay. So the cost for a startup, right, can be broadly categorized into marketing, sort of sales, admin, engineering, right? But there's also time, right? Time is a cost. Like, how long is it going to take you to get there? It's very, very important. And for software development, you can assume that roughly 2/3 of your cost, that's software, right? 2/3 of your cost is going to be labor, and 1/3 is going to be sort of everything else. But these can further be broken down into sub-costs, right? Marketing is not just marketing to your users. For us at Caliber, a big cost was not marketing to our users, it was actually convincing investors. Like, we had to fly to California, we had to fly to Singapore, we went to Hong Kong, like not all of us, but it adds up. I mean, every plane ticket is taken, right? It became a really big cost for us. Inside marketing was also sort of digital marketing, right? Facebook spend. It was also hiring people. It was because that also is a cost, right? It takes time. Inside of admin, right? If you want to fill out your BIR reports and you want to pay people, that also adds up to the cost of your business, right? If you have any sort of sorry, I'm cheating. Yeah, I mean, if I've actually covered all of them. Just looking for another one that I'm missing. But yeah, I've covered all of them. So that gives you a pretty good approximation for all your categories of cost and how those relate to your business. So now we have revenue, right, which is an approximation, and we have costs. And rather than talking in theory, I'm going to go to an example straight away. So this one is a theoretical example where you basically create an app, and you put that app on the iTunes store, or the, what am I saying, on the Android store. And on the Android store, there are countless ads, and somehow you believe that your average revenue per user is going to be 50 pesos, so 80 pesos, sorry. And so 80 pesos, that's like roughly $2, so you can imagine that that app is maybe, I don't know, what's an app that costs? It's a game, okay. It's a cute video game, and that app is in maybe Taglish, and it caters very much to the population of a certain campus in the school or in the country, and that campus has 50,000 students. So I go from 80 pesos per user to the number of users, which is 50,000. So I believe that my total revenue potential is 4 million pesos, right? So that would be my revenue. My cost, on the other hand, would be the annual average salary of my engineers, which in this case might be 35,000 per engineer times whatever number of engineers that I have. Actually, this is 35,000 per month times the number of developers, which is 3, plus the number of marketings and sales and admins, which gives me an average of 1.68 million pesos per year. And adding to that, using my rule of thumb on the previous slide that I had written at the bottom here, where I said 2/3 of your costs will be labor and 1/3 will be everything else. I basically just add 50%, right? Because if this is 2/3 and this is 1/3, this is 50% of that. And I end up with 2.5 million pesos as my cost. And I subtract 2.5 from 4 million, and I end up with a 1.48 million peso business per year. Now, this is not the world's greatest business, but it is a simple business, and it is something that a group of students at a university could create, for instance, right? If we had to do the same exercise for a much larger company, the same concepts would apply. If you're Google and you're thinking, and maybe some Googlers in the room might be able to tell me, I don't know the answer, but Google have also an average revenue per user, right? The reason why they create Gmail and Google Plus and all of those products is because they had this idea that users are worth something. Their number of users would not be 50,000, right? It would be more like, I don't know, 2 billion, 1 billion, and then they would get a really big number for revenue. Their cost would not be 3 engineers, right? And their salary would not be 35,000 pesos per month. It would be more like 20,000 engineers and maybe $100,000 per year, etc. But the same logic would apply, and you would be pretty surprised and amazed at how accurate this prediction is. Maybe not to the number of decimal places, but certainly the order of magnitude would be very, very accurate. And that gives you an idea of what the value of a company is. And it's very, very easy to validate. So I think we've already covered enough of this, so we'll go straight to customer segments because I think this is going to give you guys more insights. We have 30 minutes left. So, yeah, cool with it. So we've already covered more or less cost structure and revenue stream. And I've managed to embarrass about 4 people so far. So make sure that you either pay attention or you're ready to be embarrassed because I'm going to come in the audience very soon. So let's start with customer segments. So total addressable market. What is a total addressable market? And I'm going to pick somebody. I think I've, not you, oh, you're very surprised. I think you've just picked yourself. I was not going to go for you, but the way that you jumped, it's just too much to, okay. What is total addressable, what is your name?
Hillary.
Sorry, what's your name again?
Hillary.
Hillary. Her name is Hillary. So Hillary, what is total addressable market? What is a market? Maybe we could start with that.
Market in the industry. The demand.
A market is like a wet market, like a sari store. It's like a place where you go and you buy things, right?
Yes.
Okay, so for your company, your startup, you will probably have some sort of a market, right?
Yes.
Okay, so with that market, that market has a size, right? Okay, so total addressable market, I guess we've already addressed the word market, and we've sort of addressed the word market. What is addressable? What does that mean? Could someone please shut the microphone? I think there's echo. Or it comes from another microphone, I'm not sure. So what is addressable?
It's the computation of your...
Why do we call it addressable? Okay, I think I've embarrassed Hillary for long enough. I'm going to go to somebody else. You better make eye contact, because if you avoid me, I am more likely to pick you again. She's definitely not staring at me. I've already attacked this line, I've attacked these guys. I'm looking for the word addressable. I have somebody in the back who raised his hand. He's a keener. Are you a straight A student?
Yeah, I'm a student.
What's your name? Oh, you're teaching here.
My name is Abram Limbin.
So Abraham, what is total addressable market?
The keyword there is addressable, so it's something to do with what is your niche or what is your target market. I mean, you're trying to come up with what should be my target customer or what should be my target users of whatever API I want.
Yes, so we have an answer here, and I think it's right on point, which is you can have a total market, right? But if you're sort of thinking that your total market is the entire population of the Philippines, keyword is addressable. Sorry, and in this example, I just damaged the mic, no? And in this example for LiveDoc, that's what they did. They said, okay, we're going to start with the entire United States, right? 300 million people. And then they're going to, and their app is LiveDoc, whatever that is, right? Reassurance when you want it. It said like this, reassurance when you want it. So reassurance when you want it starts with 300 million people, and then you say, well, it's not for everybody. It's only for people who are sick or who have a dependent who is sick. And then you go down, and then you say, well, if you're sick or if you have a dependent that you're sick, but you're not an internet user, you're not one of our users. Then further down, it's for mothers who have 2+ kids. Then further down, it's for those mothers that are college educated. Further down, it's for mothers that have 2 or more kids, college educated, and that have an income between $45,000 and $120,000 per year, and that ends up being 6.3 million mothers. Now the 0.3 is not very relevant, but you end up with 6 million mothers times 4 consultations per year times $8 per consultation. Those are just assumptions, but again, you can validate those fairly easily. And you end up with a total addressable market of $200 million. So that's the notion of a total. Defining a box around which, well, I'm selling fruits, they're healthy fruits, so my box is going to be, and I'm going to have such and such open hours, so my box is going to be male or female, between this age and that age. Region, they live around here because they walk on the street, they don't come by car. Their occupation, they're likely going to be students. Their social level is going to be, well, it doesn't really matter what social level they are, but they have to be sort of a little health conscious, or they have to like fruits. Their characteristics, well, they don't, in this case, has a smartphone. That doesn't apply because I'm selling fruits on the street. It doesn't matter. The user category doesn't matter. Other doesn't matter. But you see how I've constructed a user profile for my fruit stand. Well, we do the exact same thing when we think about Calibre, about our customer profile. We think about our users, but we also think about the person actually making the decision. Out of this customer profile, which is sort of like a box you have to think about, you can also pick one person out of there, one very, very specific person. And that one person is someone that is relevant to your business. It's someone that makes a decision. So in the case of Calibre, if we pick one very, very specific person, that means one specific user with a name, with an age, with a background, etc., that you start to try to understand very precisely. And maybe I'm going to hand off the microphone again to you guys to maybe tell us, this is a little bit on the spot, but to maybe tell us an example of a persona of one of our users, maybe an example of a persona of one of our clients. So
this alludes a little bit to what Danny was talking about before, is that we actually have two kinds of users, right? We have candidates who are trying to get the job. We have two kinds of users. We have candidates and we have recruiters, right? And they have very different use cases, very different experiences. And this is something, when we were designing our product, that we had to take a great deal of attention, pay a great deal of attention to. And this involved, we actually set up and operated ourselves as a recruitment agency, so we knew the pain and the struggles they have. And we sent our engineers in as mystery shoppers to go try to get a job at a BPO, right? Not telling them they were engineers, just making up some stuff. We got permission ahead of time, so we weren't violating their privacy agreements and all that. But we want to understand the pain of the candidate and the pain of the recruiter. And those are two of our primary use cases. Like, we know that the recruitment process takes 8 hours. Most of that time is spent doing nothing. And so we said, well, if we can reduce the amount of time they're doing nothing by having them do assessments on site or before they arrive at the procedure, we can cut that time down from 8 hours to 3 hours. So that's a massive saving on the candidate. They also only have to do it once for all the BPOs that they might want to go to. For the recruiter, they spend so much time interviewing people who aren't qualified. We want to present an interface that shows them only the people who meet their criteria. So they spend all their time working with people that match the job requirements. I think it's very, very important to have our engineers do that because either whether you're a developer yourself or you're going to be hiring developers, the nature of software engineering is that it's a very focused, very isolated occupation. They spend a lot of time in your head, and if you just leave the developers off by themselves and they don't interact with the customers or the clients, they'll begin to form their own model of how things are and become out of touch with the realities of the business processes. Dexter, you can fill in.
Tim talked about something very important, which is we have to understand the behaviors of who's using our product. Okay, that's a very important point. What I want to talk about is we have to understand who's making the decision to purchase the product. And the reason why I say this is because you can mistake the two for each other. Who is using your product might not be the one who's buying your product. And the success and failure for a business can really depend on whether or not you got that question right. Okay, so if you're selling to consumers, right? If you're selling to consumers, say, toys, who uses the toys? Kids, right? And they're gonna want the loudest, you know, fanciest, most high-tech thing possible. Who's paying for the toy? Parents. And the parents going to want what? That it's educational, that it's not too noisy, that it's durable, that it lasts a long time. So when you're thinking about how you create your product, you have to speak not just to the user who's using your product, you also have to think about who is making the decision to purchase it, okay? There's a difference, you have to understand it. For us, we had to understand this too. Who is using our product, okay? In this case, on the company side, it's the recruiter. It's the person who calls you, hi mom, sir, are you interested in working at Accenture? Please come by tomorrow. What is your name? What is your birthday? That's who uses our product. Tim talked about our process to understand and learn about what that process is like so we can make it better for them. But who's making the decision to purchase our product? It's not the recruiter. It's the vice president of HR. It's the head of the recruiting department. In some cases, it's the head of the whole company. They care about the analytics. They care about what's the impact on productivity, the impact on cost. So this is very, very, very crucial. Understand who's using your product, make it better for them, but also understand who's purchasing your product. That way, if you can tackle both of those, you can move. You can really move a product that has demand.
It just brings up one interesting point that when we developed an initial version of the product, the developers had pretty good internet. So it was a very media-rich, intensive, and presentation and assessment. And then when we would put this out to users who had had tendency to have worse internet, we saw a very large decline in adoption. Right? And then we switched offices for a period that had very terrible internet, really brought home that point to us and helped us develop a product that can very efficiently use bandwidth to bring assessment content online.
Thank you, guys. So I hope that this motivates the need to think about very specific people, not only the people who are going to use your product, but also the people who are making the purchase decisions on the product. So the next topic that I want to cover is called, well, it's category of adopters. And that is, as you can see here, that's a bell-shaped curve or a Gaussian curve or a normal distribution. And what that is it gives you an idea of the rate at which your product or your service is going to be adopted by the marketplace. So I already mentioned total addressable market, right? So the total addressable market is sort of like the integral of that whole thing, right? Or the surface thing. The beachhead market is more or less sort of that tip point here, right? But what's really interesting and important to know is sort of how long it's going to take you to reach that midpoint, right? There's a lot of technologies that have, over the years, been developed, right? And they're sort of adopted really, really, really quickly over here, sort of in Silicon Valley and so on. But it takes a long time before they're adopted throughout the world. I think Eileen made a really good point earlier on about Chrome, right? It was like really close to here in terms of adoption. But even that, is like that was done by a really large company with an established, presence and a brand and so on, right? If you just release a browser next year and you're not backed by Google, it's going to take you way more time to get adoption in the world. So it's extremely important that you consider this as you think about your adopters. And there is something to be said about this concept, and I don't have a slide on this, I deleted it, but I think it's extremely relevant. And it's this concept of network effect. Has anyone heard of this concept before? Because this is the perfect time for me to like jump down and go and find somebody. So has anyone ever heard of network effects? If you have, please raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to do a different experiment. Everybody in the room, raise your hand. Okay, so Okay, thank you. So keep your hands up, and I'm going to ask you, if you have heard of network effect before, lower your hand. Oh, so you have heard of network effect. I said if you have heard, you lower your hand, so you've lowered your hand. What is network effect? Sorry, I tricked you.
I have no idea.
No idea. Okay. What is a network?
Connected components.
Connected components, that's good. What are you studying, by the way?
Information system.
And what's your name?
Ping.
Ping. So Ping studying information systems understands that network is connected components. That's a good definition. Okay. So in this case, what are the components?
Innovator, enthusiast.
That's a good point. Okay. So it's, I guess, people, right? Okay. So now we have people who are somehow connected. What is that effect that I'm so keen on? What is the network? What is the effect in network effect? Just make a guess. Okay. It's cool. It's cool.
Whereas our talk was, we wanted to give you some of the tools to help you start your own business. But I may be only speaking to one or two, if any of you in the room. What we need now, we need pioneers. We need people who are willing to assume more risk, who are making sacrifices to solve a problem that they really are passionate about. Because that's where the Philippines is right now. The credit rating just went up. The whole world is looking at the Philippines. But it's hard because it's new. I don't know who of you is that pioneer, but I would like to meet you. I would like to help you. I'm sure the people at Google would like to meet you. The people at Ideaspace would like to meet you. Because even though it's harder to start a business here, with the talent, the energy, the market, the Philippines can blow everyone else out of the water. Y Combinator is, Danny mentioned it in passing before, it's the most difficult incubator for startups to get into. It's actually, this winter, only 1.6% of those who applied got in. It's actually 8 times harder to get into Y Combinator than it is to get into Harvard or MIT. Danny and Paul worked on an application. Last January, Caliber got it. The first and only Filipino company to do so. So we don't want you to think small. In fact, we need you to think big. The Philippines need you to think big. Because the world image of Filipinos is that we're displaced workers. We're people who work in casinos and engineering firms in Dubai and Singapore. Because next time I meet with that professor from Stanford, I want to show him the ideas that you're creating, the companies that you've built. And the opportunities that have changed, the new investor interest, the fact that you have people who are pioneers, who are trying to start this ecosystem here in the Philippines, we're doing it for you. So if you're one of those people, I'd like to meet you. And for the rest of you, I think the Philippines has a lot for you to offer. Thank you.
Well, we hadn't planned for this, but there's a question, or? Oh yeah, I'll give you the mic.
I think you noticed that very few in the Philippines could really come up to De La Salle College of St. Benilde because this is one of the schools that's considered to be quite expensive. But the De La Salle brothers had believed that if you're good, if you're excellent in your job, and you are a talented Filipino, you should be studying in our school. That's why every De La Salle school offers 20% scholarship. So we needed supporters of that, and we need somebody who believes also in our vision, inclusivity, of education, regardless of what they believe into. As long as they would want to get educated, they can come here in the College of St. Benilde. You posited something a while ago, and we are actually targeting something for the institution. It's the inclusive education, and the challenge actually for our young students before they graduate, they come up with a project that is worthy to turn around a certain quality of life, especially the poor. So we are challenging them to be part of that. And I hope your company is partner somehow, one way or another, in developing those skills in them.
Oh, I'll bring it. The mic carrier.
Yeah. I got a question about the Lean Canvas framework. I saw when I got in. So I was just wondering if this is the standard being used by startup companies. And so, as an institution, do you think?
I mean, I'd love to hear other people's opinion on that. I personally just picked it up because I liked its simplicity. I would certainly not say that it's a standard in any way. I think startups are moving very, very fast, faster than standards can be established. In terms of institutions, I would say what's more important than the framework that you're using is giving the students enough time and incentives to be able to try to make the startup work. You can have a course that teaches this, but if the students don't have all the resources and exposure to whether it's investors in the market or enough time and like a place and so on, I don't think it's going to, that entrepreneurship is going to flourish. Like basic thing structures, I think this school is doing a great job in fast internet, right? Places to talk, places to congregate, but giving them also access to investors, encouraging them to go and do projects, extracurricular projects, where when they talk to customers, real customers, right, on the field, it's going to have a huge impact. This is a great framework because it's simple to use and it ensures that you've done sort of all your that's my comment. Thank you. So I guess we're going to close. So thank you guys. We're going to give the stage back to TJ, who's going to introduce you guys to Earl and the rest of the show. Right. Thanks, Danny, Tim, and Mr. Dexter. Yeah. All right. So we're sort of. Guys, before you leave, we actually have something in appreciation for your effort today to inspire students. So this is it. One for Tim and one for Mr. Dexter.
DJ, your laptop.
Mr. Tim. All right. Thank you. Hopefully.
Thank you so much, guys.
Right.
So finally, we have learned a lot of things from them. So we have learned what factors when starting a startup, and it will definitely help you guys come up with a good reflection paper. Okay, so let's move on with our next speaker.
So our next speaker is one of my buddies, actually. I'll call him my buddy. And he's from Idea Space. He's the systems engineering from Cornell University. He also had his MBA from Stanford University. He worked for the Raytheon Space Systems on ballistic missile defense system. I have no idea this Iron Man thing.
Scary.
But yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. And please let's welcome him, Mr. Earl Valencia.
Hello, how are you guys? No lights off. I want to make sure. Actually, I don't know. Danny's not here anymore, but that's what we learn in business school. It's called. So I know that technique very much, but I might not employ that because I was always the victim of my professor being called. So I'll start probably my talk with a quick video, and the video is really about what is the current state of the Philippines and what opportunities for all of you to actually help make change happen in the country. It's by an organization called DevX. They are the largest network for development and social innovators in the world.
I realized that education is such a huge problem in this country. There's so much hunger in the Philippines.
This doctor is the fast-growing population of our country.
We are a country in transition, and as we transition, there are actually a lot of problems that need to be solved.
I think all businesses and all development work comes first from finding a problem, and most importantly, a problem that you have the skills to address.
We see big organizations working on big issues, but we also see a lot of everyday heroes, they say, making a difference in the communities where they work.
The Philippines has always been this potential that has not seen its potential.
At a certain point, I realized that I wanted to do something with more social impact. What drives me is being able to provide opportunities to every Filipino.
I want to improve healthcare in this country. I want to improve the lives of people.
Harness our natural resources and to change the world one company at a time.
Using my talents to really lift up our country through what I know best.
Economic and personal empowerment is something very powerful. For me, that kind of transformation is also what drives me.
If there's anything that's going to come out, especially development, I think a key thing is governance, good governance.
All along, I have this interest and passion for discipline to develop and to do something that has social impact.
My passion is really to see meaning in what I do and to see actual impact in the lives of the people that we really want to help.
Definitely headed in the right direction. That's very loud and clear.
I believe that the Filipino is one of the greatest minds in the whole world, but people just have to know that we exist. Non-profits and organizations primarily because of natural opportunity.
I'm most motivated when I see for myself how our programs can actually help uplift the quality of life of people.
And that drives me. Every day I get up and realize that what we're doing is benefiting the lives of millions of Filipinos.
Knowing that at least we're making some small difference. Knowing that passion will always carry you through, but if you send your heart forward, the rest of it will follow.
In order for us to compete, in order for us to do that, we have to strengthen our education program.
To make the Philippines a destination for business and to be able to see that in my lifetime, our country has become one of the leading countries in the nation.
Okay, how'd you guys like that video, right? I guess that kind of aligned to what one of the questions for a while ago, which is, okay, let's turn on the lights so that light atmosphere. How do you guys like that video? Good, right? Very inspiring. Actually, it's one of the most inspiring bunch that I've met kind of in my entire life. Actually, Paul is a very inspiring guy. And it's really some of the people that said, I want to dedicate my life to actually creating change and doing it firsthand, right? So we have here Mark Ruiz, who did the Happy Noi project. We had some government officials. We had others too who really believe that our country can make it. Actually, Dexter had a very, very good point a while ago. We can do it. We just have to show the world that we can, right? So who here has heard about Idea Space? I just wanted to know. So a couple. So in theory, Idea Space, simply put, is that we give you capital to take from your prototype, your idea, into commercialization, right? And then we incubate you to make that real. That's really it, right? So who here wants capital to make something, right? So people want it. And why did we think we need to do that? Because unfortunately, when you look at the Philippines, not a lot of people can get capital unless you know somebody, right? Who here has heard about that? No? It's called, in the Philippines, called the kakilala method, right? It just means, kakilala mo ba, right? Kakilala kita, so bigyan kitang investment. And I think that's what we want to also figure out, how to build a culture of the best ideas bubbling up rather than the people who just have access, right? So that's it. If you want to add me, Earl Valencia and Idea Space PH also on Facebook. We're trying to find these types of companies or ideas to make the emerging markets a better place to be in, right? So just a really quick quiz. I just want to know if people are kind of alive after that video, alive and lively.
I'm the Google Student Ambassador for De La Salle University. And right now, I'm going to introduce you the head of outreach in Southeast Asia in Google. She has been a long-time marketing practitioner and has been involved in marketing and business development of technology products for more than 11 years. She is an experienced marketing and sales manager, skilled in developing and implementing marketing, communication, and strategic business plans and campaigns that produce results and increase sales and profits. Skilled in product and brand development, training, sales management, business development, market research, and profiling, I introduce you the Master Yoda of Google, Ms. Eileen Apollo de Jesus.
Okay, good afternoon. A lot of you are actually seated at the back. Can you guys please come on over? Come to the front. I don't bite.
One guy, move forward, please.
And I especially need to behave. My son is around. Come on over. Come to the front. Mas ganado ako mag-talk pag malapit yung mga tao eh. Guys at the back, come. Don't be shy. This is something very important. Sa masasabi ko, malamig pala sa Benildean. Okay, so, yan. Huwag kayo shy with each other. Okay, so, good afternoon, I'm back. I gave the keynote earlier. I realized kanina medyo madamay ako. Apparently, I was hungry earlier. And it's a good thing to have hot dogs here in Benil. And I didn't get to talk about myself earlier. So, my name is Eileen Apollo de Jesus. I'm a La Salle graduate, dun sa kabila. Know it. And yes, I love cupcakes. I love eating, and I'm trying to lose weight as well. And I've been working for Google for almost 7 years now. And to start off my talk, I thought I'd give a little swag. CJ, Papa, please get my bag. Please. The white one. No, I have special swag here. I brought, of course. Who wants to get a Google shirt? Okay, so I'm going to give this out to the person who can tell me what the mission of Google is. Anybody, please go to the mic. It's a nice Google Doodle for the Philippines. Size is small. Medyo malaki siya. Anybody? Can anybody share with me what is the mission of Google? Mga nagsasearch ako na. Anybody? Yes? Please go to the mic.
It's right here, bro.
Ay, tagal. Can anybody guess? Please come to the mic.
Google's mission is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful.
O, diba? Matalino siya. Nag-search. Congratulations. Catch your t-shirt. Alright, now she's the proud owner of a Google shirt. Diba? So the mission of Google is actually to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Mamaya mamimigay pa ako. I brought also 2 Android USBs with me. Basta makinig kayo, okay? So this afternoon, DJ asked me to talk also about a bit about marketing. But what I decided to do was to actually give you more a talk about innovation at Google. So you probably see that Google actually comes out with a lot of new products and features every so often. We actually probably push out a new feature every single day. And me, I'm a Googler, but it's really hard to keep up. And more often than not, I just end up studying. I don't know everything about Google, but I try to. So I thought I'd share with you the 9 notions of innovation. So the first notion of Google about innovation is innovation, not instant perfection. So what does this mean? So one of our key products and one of our premier products is actually search. It continues to be an evolving product. Diba what you see when you do a search on Google is just that very nice, clean, white screen with our logo, Google, and then the search box at the bottom. But behind that one is actually a very, very complicated algorithm. And in the last 15 years, this continues to change. And if you take a look at our search product, it also continues to evolve. Now you guys also, you guys probably know who the #1 search engine is. Sino? Google, diba? But, do you guys know who is the 2nd largest search engine in the world? Can anybody guess? The person with the right answer will get this really nice Android USB. Can anybody guess? From the back? Yes, the one in black jacket. Please state your name and your college as well. Tignan natin kung tama. Your name?
Don.
From?
CSP.
College of?
Sorry. BSP Smith.
Okay, and your guess is?
Big or young?
Sigurista, pareho naman mali. Any other guess? Yes? What is the 2nd largest search engine in the world?
MSN?
Hindi pa yun. No? Yes?
YouTube.
YouTube, correct. You get this Android USB. So YouTube is actually the second largest search engine. So Debbie mentioned earlier, like the number of views that we get on YouTube. So she mentioned about 6 billion. That was a big clue already. So in Google, what we actually do, so I mentioned YouTube because online video has actually been evolving as a product as well. So many years ago when I started working for Google, hindi pa namin pag-aari actually on YouTube. We only bought YouTube in 2006, the year that I started. And since then, there's been a lot of new features that have been added on YouTube. So, konti-unti siya. And like the newer ones include yung annotations, and then sponsored ads. In the Philippines, you can also become a partner as well. So the second notion of innovation is share everything you can. Diba? So who of you actually use Google Drive? Anybody? Who of you actually uses Google Plus? Ah, dumadami na. That's very good. So social is actually online. 75% of online adults ages 18 to 24 have a profile on a social networking site. Much more so in the Philippines. And social actually counts for about 16% of online time globally. So what we want to do actually in Google is to make it easier for you guys to share more. And that's exactly why we launched Google Plus. So Google Plus is the social spine of Google, which makes it easier for you to actually share information online. So I also mentioned Google Drive because it also helps you collaborate and make it easier to share documents with your classmates. Number 3, hire outside the box. So in Google, if I probably applied this year, not back in 06, I would probably not have been hired. You know why? Because in Google we have an adage, we have a policy that you have to hire somebody who is better than you. And because of this, it actually forces people to become more innovative. And this is a sample of an ad that we placed many years ago. If you're actually able to solve that problem, I couldn't solve it, I'm not an engineer. But if you could solve that one, it will actually direct you to a site which will prompt you to answer another problem. And then if you answer that problem, then you are asked to submit a resume, and you could probably get an interview in Google. So one example of why we hire brilliant minds is because when you start working at Google, you don't need to wait many months to actually start shining. So an example is the APM program. This is the Associate Program Manager initiative that we have. So an example of is this girl. I met her a couple of months back. But when she was new at Google, her manager thought that she was really, really brilliant. And in her first week, she was actually already presenting at Zeitgeist. So Zeitgeist is where we actually publish all the top searches on a given country and all the top searches globally. So they actually had a chance to present immediately at Zeitgeist. Okay? Number 4 notion, a license to pursue dreams. So there's quite a lot of really great stories in Google. So why did I put there 20% examples? In Google, when you're an engineer, you actually have what we call the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time, you do your regular job. 20% of the time, you actually have the time to be creative and innovative. So some of the examples of some products that we have now that started as 20% time include Google News, there's Gmail also, there's Chrome to phone as well. Our old social networking site, Orkut, was actually created by an engineer named Orkut. And also to share with you, my 20% time has actually been about mapping the Philippines. So in the last 4 years, that has been my 20% time. And last year, from just a measly 10 map-ups every year, we had more than 90 map-ups in the Philippines. And that was really, really notable because the mapmaker team was telling me, this has never happened in any other country. And because of that, they decided to graduate that 20% time of mine to become part of my work. So, ganun sa akin, when you're doing well, dumadami yung work mo. So, they told me, Eileen, we won't give you budget anymore to map the Philippines because we want you to start growing the mapping communities as well in other Southeast Asian countries. I'm kind of stuck with that one. So, what we're saying here is fast is better than slow as well. An example on some of the projects that we've done on that are Google autocomplete. Because when you do a search, more often than not, Google instinctively gives you suggestions on what you are searching for. This is very individualized actually, depending on your search patterns. And I remember my former manager was on this team, and he said this was actually done by one of the engineers that was reporting to him. So the fifth notion of innovation is ideas come from everywhere. So it's top down from Larry and Sergey. They give suggestions, they give us broad mandates on what to do. And then it can also come from down up. So because of the 20% project that engineers do, there's a lot of innovation happening in Google. One example that my manager, he used to be a part of the YouTube team before, is the remover for YouTube borders, black borders. So, diba sometimes when you watch a YouTube video, you would see like these black borders on the side. So one of the engineers told him, you know, I want to find a way to make it easy to take out those black borders on the side. So what happened then was, so my boss told him, okay, you can take a look and see if there's an easier way to take out those ugly black borders at the side. So the engineer worked on it. And then, so it went through Q&A. The problem was, supposedly, my manager was supposed to clear it. But because he was traveling, and because the app that he did worked really well, it actually got pushed out onto YouTube as an immediate rollout feature. So that happens. And what happens in Google is, whenever there's an idea, we usually pilot it immediately and see if it's going to work. And then we learn from it. So an example of this one is one of the programs that I'm handling currently. It's the Google Business Groups. So we actually have the Google Developer Groups, and this community has been running for a couple of years already. And in one of the G days in Egypt, there was a participant who said, hey, you know, Google, you've always been taking care of and giving much love to developers. What about us, the business owners, the entrepreneurs? What can you do for us so that you can help us grow as well? And so, and the G Day was actually run by my counterpart who handles Africa and Middle East as well. So after some time, they said, okay, let's see and pilot if the Google Business Group is going to scale as well. So we piloted this and grew the program actually in Southeast Asia. And it's a program that's being run for just about a year and a half. But because it worked really well, and because we saw that empowering users drives usage and adoption as well, it makes it easier for those people who are relatively offline to go online. we decided to pursue and grow this program fully. Okay. The sixth notion of innovation is don't politic, use data. So what we're saying here is do not make guesses. It's the best way is to still actually use data. That's very, very important. So one of the things that you can actually use is Google Insights for search. Do we have any marketing students here? Or business students? Don't be shy, I'm not gonna call you. Yes. So, diba, like whenever you create like marketing campaigns or business plans, one of the things that you need to check out for is data, of course. And one easy way to actually look for data, let's say, for example, you're comparing a couple of brands. In this case, it's Samsung, iPhone, and Nokia. So if you take a look at Google Insights research and compare the three brands, you will see the search data that has happened in the past 8 years, from 2004 to 2012. And you will notice that the iPhone actually peaked sometime in between 2011 and 2012. And this was the time that the iPhone was selling like hotcakes, and then eventually it started going down. So it's a good indicator to see about interest of people for your brand online. Okay, the seventh notion of innovation is creativity loves constraint. So what does this exactly mean? So in Google, we're actually allowed to be very creative. But of course, there are certain restraints that we need to follow. So like, for example, my 20% time is mapping the Philippines. But there are some restraints that I need to follow. There are some policies that I need to go through whenever I have map-ups in the Philippines. Or like, for example, Google Images. Of course, images abound. But there are some, like, important things that we need to follow whenever we do these things. Of course, you would notice there are blocks or parental controls also on Google Images and on search as well. Number 8, users and usage and money will follow. So what we do in Google is we focus on what's best for the end user. So eventually, when you become brand managers, or let's say you handle specific, or you become product managers, one of the important things that you should note is you have to think about the user, okay? And then eventually, the money will follow. This is exactly what happened in Google. When Larry and Sergey created Google, and then created the search engine, there were so many people who started using it. And then there were many, many investors who actually invested in so that Google can continue programming the back end of Google. And then they really started to ask, like, how do we earn from this? There were so many users already, but it took years before Google started to earn from the search engine that we have. But what we continue to do is to actually focus on what's best for the end user. Sometimes there are things that we see that would be good for us, but would not be good for the end user. We do not push through with it. And lastly, the ninth notion is don't kill projects, mark them. One example that I have for this one is actually Google Wave. Have any of you tried using that one? Wala, di ba? Kasi ako rin, hindi ko rin siya ginamit eh. So, Google Wave is one of the technologies that was created by Google. We launched it a couple of years back. But I guess it was just really too geeky. So, even like me, I like being online. I use a number of social networking sites, but it was just not too instinctive for me, personally. So, what Google did was to actually sunset the product, Google Wave, and then eventually the technology that was developed under Google Wave has been integrated in a couple of our products. And one thing where Google Wave has morphed into is actually Google Plus. So it's much more friendly, easier to use, but the technologies behind this, some of it is actually Google Wave. One thing that you will also find on Google Plus is Gtalk, which is now part of Google Hangout, and many more things. So one example also is the Google Graphs tool. We have this tool, but now you will also see it on Google Drive. Like you can use it for Google Docs, Google Spreadsheet, and Google Presentation as well. So what exactly are we saying? Innovation is not an option. It's an imperative. It's something that you have to continuously think about. Even though you, let's say, one day become an entrepreneur, or one day you become part of a large multinational company and you handle a product, something like that. Anywhere you go, you still need to become innovative to be at the forefront. So, yeah, that was a quick presentation. But I have one more Android USB to give away. Can anybody tell me what this thing is? Anybody?
Garage is important to Google because that's where they started.
Where they started? Tama ba yung sagot niya?
More specific.
Yes.
What's happening in there?
That's actually correct. You get the Android USB. Please catch it. Thank you. Very nice catch. So, yeah, actually Google started. Larry and Sergey were actually schoolmates at Stanford University. And they used to argue a lot. So I read this from one of the many books written about Google. They didn't really like each other, but they had really, really good discussions. They would have. What they decided to do was to actually create a search engine from within Stanford University. So, because it was really, really helpful, that's when they decided and said, why don't we index the whole World Wide Web? And that's what they actually started to do. And then eventually, and how they started was, they got like, yung mga unwanted server, unwanted computer parts, they got it from within Stanford University, and how they actually put it together, the base. They didn't have any money. They actually used Lego. Siguro na Lego, diba? And it's easy to put together. And then that's where they actually put the different parts that they managed. Okay? Yun yun. That's the story. So it's something that you guys can think about. And I remember Earl asked you guys earlier if any of you wanted to build the next Google. It's possible. Both Larry and Sergey were students just like you. Okay? So, anybody who wants to work for Google? Ayaw nyo? So, working at Google. There's a lot of perks that you get as a Googler. One of the biggest perks I get is I get to travel around. Isa nga too much na. But yeah, it's true. We have great food, we have gym, there are free classes that you can go to. Like, for example, if you want to go yoga, we even have salsa in the Singapore office. And we have regular massages as well from within the office. And some activities for communities in Bangladesh. So it's really international. And it's something that's really good. Google is a good training ground as well for anybody. All you need to do is to actually have that lakas ng loob to apply. So I'm celebrating my 7th year in Google this year. And a lot of people actually ask me, how did you start working for Google? And I responded to them by applying. Of course, that's the first step you need to take. If you want to work for Google, you need to apply and, of course, make good with your interviews. And I would say that my interviews, talagang kinirir ko siya. One of the requirements I had was to actually build a business plan for the Philippines. And they were shell-shocked when what I presented because they said, wow, this is a full plan. Because I really did my research, and that's what actually got me the job, being prepared. I told, so TJ knows this, the 5 Ps. Diba, TJ? Proper planning prevents poor performance. So this also works for interviews. You need to do this one. Okay? So thank you very much, and thank you for your +1 for your attention. Should we do any Q&A? I still have pens and stickers. Sige, tanong. Sino gusto magtanong? Please go to the mic, introduce yourself and your
Hello, I'm just curious, why did Google kill Google Reader?
Hindi ko rin alam. No, so Google, whenever we sunset something, there should be a really good reason behind it. I was actually surprised myself because I'm a user of Google Reader, and I'm like, why did they kill Google Reader? I really honestly do not know. Kung ano man yun sa announcement, yun. Because we're actually always very honest with our users. They're actually probably planning for something nicer for Google Reader. And siguro baka mapapayag yung usage. That may be one. The same way why Google Health was killed off. I have a green pen because it's Benildean. Please come and get it. Any other questions? Any other questions? Akala ko tumayo siya kasi magtatanong. Lalabas pala. Any other questions? I have 49 more pens. Napakagod. Why do I do this to myself? Any other questions? Yes?
How do we apply for Google internship?
Okay, that's a very good question. Here's your pen. So, how do you actually apply for an internship in Google? So, in Google, we actually post all our openings, including internships, on google.com/jobs. You can just type internship, and then you can also send your resume the same way that we actually apply for a job. That's one. And then, secondly, we're actually also counting on professors to send in their referrals to us. So, actually, HR, before I left for the Philippines, our people ops team, our recruitment team, met with me, and then they said, Eileen, we need help from the Philippines because we know Philippines has very good talent pool, but the problem is not many people are actually applying for Google from the Philippines. Siyempre, tingin nila magaling ako kaya gusto nila mas marami ako daw. So, that's another thing. You can actually approach your professor or maybe your career development office can send us referrals as well. Yes, RJ, you can send. You can send. Okay, any other questions? Maybe one more.
How are you today?
I'm sure Benher is very excited for his turn. May tanong pa? Wala na? Mahihayin pa mga taga-Benildean? Parang hindi naman. Nung college ako, madami akong friends sa Benildean. Lahat sila hindi shy. Sir, sige. Go.
I'm just curious with the work environment in Google. Is it like an 8 to 5 structured, or it's like anything goes, just give me the result?
Okay, so, sorry, people. In Google, so we have a very special culture in Google. So when you actually apply for a job, you're only not assessed based on your skills, your scholastic record, but you're also assessed whether you can actually fit in the culture. Because in Google is very free. So we don't really follow an 8 to 5 schedule because it's very results oriented. At the beginning of every quarter, we are asked, what are you supposed to deliver this quarter? So you set your own targets every quarter. And at the end of the quarter, it is assessed. So, kung kunyari, hindi ka palagi pumapasok, pero nakaka-deliver ka ng results mo, walang issue doon. It also depends on your manager because there are some functions which require you to be, of course, on your desk as well, especially if, for example, as a customer service ka, iba yung pamamalakad. But like when you're in engineering, my team is under engineering, we're pretty much free to determine our own course as long as you're able to drive results for the objectives that we set at the beginning of every quarter. And in Google kasi, whenever we hire people, it's actually crowdsourced. So you go through many interviews. 10 is minimum. 7 to 10 interviews. Sometimes may come back pa yan. Uulit ka pa. So that happens because we believe that if we're able to actually interview you and have several heads determine whether you're actually somebody who's brilliant and should work for Google, and when you get points from all these interviewers, then you are hired. It's the same way for you to stay in Google. You need to actually perform really well because it's not only your manager who will assess you, but also your peers. So every 6 months, we actually do performance review, not only for our subordinates, but also for our peers. So it's very free. Actually, yung usod ko po ngayon, formal na to. Buti hindi ako naka-shorts. And when you go to the office, ganun din siya. People just come in and out. So as long as you deliver results, walang issue sa oras ng pag-work. Thank you. No more? Any other questions? Wala? Okay. I will call back our dear host.
Thank you so much, Ms. Eileen, for that amazing topic discussed. So please remain on the stage, and I would like to call on Sir Benui to give the token of appreciation to you. We are hoping that you guys learned something and you will write a lot of things in your reflection papers, okay?
So this certificate is awarded to Ms. Maria Eileen Enrila Apollo, guest speaker, for imparting valuable insights and inspirations to the attendees of the Benildean Startup Launchpad on August 6, 2013 at Augusto Rosario Gonzalez Theater of the La Salle College of St. Benilde.
Okay, so I would like to call on Mr. Ben Uy, the chairperson for Information Systems Program, for his closing remarks.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. This is actually my favorite part of the day, delivering the closing remarks, because I have a lot of people that I'd like to thank for making this event successful. Okay, so I have a full list here. Let me start with the speakers who graciously gave their precious time to come here at College of St. Benilde and share their expertise. We have Mr. Terence Resabal, okay, who's part of the Google Student Ambassador team. Thank you very much. Special thanks also go to Joshua Guevara, Mr. Van Riper, Ms. Debbie Lai, and of course, Miss Eileen Apollo of Google. Okay, we have also Mr. Danny Castanque, Dexter Gordon, and Team Trutna of Caliber. And who can forget Mr. Earl Valencia of Idea Space. Okay, aside from that, we would also like to thank our organizers. We have our friends from Center for Institutional Communications, who's here with us, so thank you very much. Also, friends from Center for Linkages and Advancement, thank you for joining us at this event. Okay, we also have members from Google Student Ambassador Program, friends of TJ, thank you very much for coming. Yes, friends of TJ, definitely. And of course, our members, okay, vibrant team of IT students, IS students of the Association of Information Management. Yeah, thank you very much for coming. Okay. Also, friends from Computer Business Association. Are we here? CBA? There. Okay, Mr. Oliver Liwana, Mr. Mentor. Okay. And they're guided by qualified faculty members like Ms. Giselle Jill D. Thank you very much for representing the faculty pool. And Mr. Rickson Singson Ge of the IT department. Okay. We also have 3 sponsors that help make this event successful. We have Gardenia Bakeries provided us with bread. Thank you very much. Okay, Idea Space, and one of our student startup companies, okay, Idea 92, who helped sponsor our event as well. So thank you very much to all 3 sponsors. And did you know, guys, that 2 visitors, okay, visited us at this event? One of them is our president, Brother Dennis Magbanwa. So he came here this morning, okay, and looked around. Also, Mr. Ben Herog, the Vice Chancellor for Administration, actually participated in the search engine optimization topic this morning. Okay, so let me give my closing remarks. Okay. What I've learned from the event is it's time for us to start using Google technologies, Google products, and create innovative projects that will drive change and uplift the lives of millions of Filipinos. Okay? As Earl and Miss Eileen shared with us, if HP and Google were able to create their startups in a garage, what's stopping you from creating it in our labs? Especially since we have all of the necessary tools and resources to make it happen. Okay? Caliber mentioned, we need pioneers. Okay? And so think of creating startups and start showing the world what an innovative Benildean project is. In closing, allow me to share with you a message that Mr. Jonathan Yabut, do you know him? He's the winner of Apprentice Asia. Okay? He shared with the panel this message. Inspiration sparks hope, hope sparks change, and action. Hope sparks action, and action sparks change. Okay, so let's all ponder on this thought as we end this event today. With that, thank you very much and have a nice afternoon. DJ, take the floor. Hi guys. It's all right. Let's have a closing prayer. Right, so please follow me. I will continue, oh my God, to do all my actions for the love of you. St. John Baptist de La Salle, St. Benil, live Jesus in our hearts. You're all welcome to go, and hopefully you're inspired. And you could also submit more ideas to Idea Space. Please coordinate with Christian Sands and Mr. Evan Valdez. Thank you.